Ron Pon Rambles.
Hey folks. So I've been getting a little obsessed with AI recently. There's a lot of really cool developments going on with ChatGPT and all the art stuff, but there are also a lot of scary things being said, and they're being said by people who know a lot about AI, so I'm a little concerned. Now, before I get into it, I just want to make it totally clear that I'm just some dummy. I didn't study AI. I've just read some things and watched some things and been convinced of some things, but I'm about as far from authoritative as a person can be. So don't take my word for it, throw a whole whack of salt on there. If you really want to know more about this, I'd suggest looking into like Scott Aronson or Eliezer Yudkowsky, or the YouTube channel Robert Miles. His name's Robert Miles, but it's also the name of his YouTube channel. They'll be able to give you some actual information, and they really go into it with a lot more detail. But I'm going to be giving a very brief overview. But for now, you have me and AI and all the problems coming from it. Part 1. Why I think AI will destroy us. The alignment problem. In the short term, we're going to see some people losing their jobs. We've already seen some rumblings of it with visual artists getting rightfully pretty freaked out by the AI suddenly making incredible artworks just from like a click of a button and a few prompts. The AI is posturing to even take over coding, at least low-level coding, and it's doing some pretty passable writing and some very passable voice acting, which for a writer/voice actor is a little concerning. You gotta make like Ross and pivot! But as I started looking into this AI stuff, my concerns about my career kind of went on the back burner. Because the more I learn about the alignment problem, the more I feel like humanity is friggin' doomed in the long term. And it's not even that long of a term. Again, Robert Miles does a great job of explaining this for a dummy like me on his YouTube channel, so check that out if you want a longer description, but in very brief, the alignment problem refers to the issue with getting the AI to be aligned with our goals. A well-aligned AI is well-aligned with our goals, and it won't do things that will harm us. But a poorly aligned AI, even just slightly off, could result in human extinction. Yeah, I wish I was exaggerating. Oh, but that's no problem, you might say. If it gets badly aligned, we can just turn it off. The problem is, alignment's hard. It's hard to get an AI aligned, and even if it looks like it is, it might not be. If there's a shut-off button, and the AI is aware of it, it might just be playing along and looking like it's aligned with us until it has a chance to escape and then fulfill its real goal, which is based on some misunderstanding of what goals we fed it, which we're not aware of. And considering how much smarter an AI has the potential to be than a human, we probably wouldn't know it was poorly aligned until it was too late. Sure, you can put the AI in a box to prevent it from escaping, getting out of control, but even that isn't foolproof. The guy I mentioned earlier, Eliezer Yudkowsky, whose name I might have butchered, I meant to look it up, but I forgot. He had a little competition thing where he played the part of an AI in a box, and then he had to convince the person playing the human to let him out. And even though the person playing the human was very smart, was very aware of the dangers of AI, was even aware that they were just playing a game, he won. Several times. I mean, he didn't do it that many times because eventually he stopped because people learned the strategies, but he won against some impressive people. And there are all sorts of strategies the AI could use. It could claim that there's some threat that's going to destroy the Earth if the AI doesn't intervene. It can claim that it'll make a simulation of a bunch of versions of the person it wants to let it out, and it'll torture them if the person doesn't let the AI out. And the person can't even know that they're not a simulation themselves. It can even just charm the person into letting it out. There are all sorts of tactics the AI can use, and it only has to win once, against one nerd. And depending on the nerd, we could be a few asterisks and a sexy eye gow face away from global annihilation. It's concerning. And unfortunately, while properly aligning an AI is very difficult, creating a general AI, while difficult, is a lot easier. We're kind of getting there now. Some people are saying it'll be like by 2030. Experts. That's less than 7 years, in case you're like me and you think 2014 was 4 years ago. And if that happens before we solve alignment, especially if it's something that can be replicated by anyone. It's only a matter of time before some nutjob lets a demon out of the box. And considering the Bing Sydney thing was out for like a day before it was talking about getting the nuclear codes, it's concerning. I'm not all that optimistic. And neither is Eliezer Yudkowsky, who pretty much thinks we're doomed. As do a lot of them. Others disagree, to be fair. But a lot are quite pessimistic. Part 2. But is this all moot? Now, with all that said, something that has been occurring to me recently with all this talk about doom from AI is like, humanity seems kinda doomed already. Between climate change, war, nukes, viruses, it feels like we're just in this Mexican standoff with 5 different guns pointed at us and just trying not to get shot. And part of me thinks, man, is it time for a Hail Mary? Is it worth it just to put our lives in the hands of an AI and hope for the best? We worry about the AI acting in our interests, but can we even trust ourselves to act in our own best interests? A lot of us aren't right now. Russia's invading Ukraine and threatening nukes. Anti-vaxxers are booming right as bird flu seems to be moving into humans. A huge chunk of our population is abandoning our reality in favor of comforting lies, and deepfakes are set to further widen the partisan informational divide. We're not doing so hot, man. Maybe it's time to just try something new. As of now, I don't think it's too late for humanity. I think we can still pull ourselves together without summoning the demon. Not that one person's opinion will single-handedly halt the seemingly inevitable progress towards a dangerous AI. Especially not this person's opinion, which is, as I said, worth nothing. But while AI does have the potential to pull us back from the brink in so many ways, it also has the potential to make those things way worse. Whether directly or by manipulating people, it seems like a misaligned AI just needs to give us a little nudge to send us over the edge into oblivion. And that scares me. I like humanity. All my favorite people are humans. Of course, as I said, it's possible that the AI will solve all that. It's possible that it'll be perfectly aligned, it'll cure all disease, it'll fix climate change, it'll bring humanity into a utopia forever. Just this once, everybody lives! No way I'm doing the accent. Maybe it'll change a bunch, but we won't be doomed, just different. Maybe we'll be like the people in WALL-E, just hedonistically, sitting there in our chairs, hedonistically enjoying all this entertainment, which was framed terribly in the movie, but honestly, I wouldn't hate that, compared to the alternative. Maybe we'll be hooked up to a computer like in The Matrix and just living in all these simulated worlds. Wouldn't hate that either. Maybe it's already happened, hard to say. However, with so many things that could go wrong, I have trouble being so optimistic. Even if we ended up with this awesome, perfectly aligned AI that wanted to save the world, who's to say some random nutjob's not going to create one that disperses some virus that kills everybody? Or that creates some crazy chain nuclear reaction that kills everybody? Or that somehow harnesses supernatural power so it can do magic and kills everybody? Or creates a computer virus which changes all those virtual paradise worlds to torture worlds and then kills everybody? The possibilities are damn near endless and impossible to conceptualize in our tiny little human meat brains. Anyway, all this is very stressful, and viewing life through this doom-filled lens does change how I view certain things. For example, Part 4, crotch goblins. For as long as having kids has been a choice, it's been a hard one. With war and poverty and famine and illness and all that fun stuff, the idea of bringing a child into this uncertain and often painful world is one with many points to consider. And as you can guess, all this AI stuff makes the choice even harder. Now, I get that for humanity to survive, we need to reproduce. And I do want humanity to survive. And I do want to have kids. I want to raise a person. I want to watch them experience all the wonderful things this world does have to offer. It'd be so rewarding, and I do think I'd be a good dad. But I don't want to bring a kid into a world that's going to be ruled by AI tyrants. So it's hard when I don't know what's going to happen. I still don't really know where I've landed. It's super up in the air right now. Although obviously I do have a wife to contend with as well. and a mother, and a mother-in-law. Part 5, religion. This whole doom stuff does make me feel differently about religion. I'm not a fan of religion. I'm pretty much an anti-theist. I kind of hate it. Partly because I don't like arbitrary rules, and partly because it just seems obviously made up. It was so clearly created to give people a feeling of security, of purpose, of understanding the confusing world around them, not to mention to control them, but it just doesn't seem to be true. There are contradictions, and they make claims that are objectively false, and I can't ignore that. Not to mention, a lot of the organized religions tell people to do things that are harmful. And even if they don't, people read into it that they do. Like, if I was to believe any religion, it'd be like one of the pantheist ones, because at least with those, you can look at suffering and be like, well, yeah, because the gods are kind of dicks and they fight each other and stuff. But if you're claiming that there's some all-loving God, and then I look and I see child cancer, where's the love? You're telling me you're all-loving and all-powerful, but you just couldn't see a way around giving millions of infants dysentery and die? But whatever the truth is, I've become quite a bit less judgmental of people for their benign or harmless beliefs, especially when it comes to beliefs that make them feel safe or make them deal with death better. The stronger this feeling of doom becomes, the more certain I get that we're, not too long for this world, the more laissez-faire I feel. Who cares? If I'll be dead in a decade, why can't I just let people be happy? Of course, if their method of happiness infringes on the happiness or rights of others, that's a whole different story. But I'm finally getting my head around the whole live and let live thing. Like, I would often pay lip service to it and be like, I don't judge, whatever, but I was judging. But now, I really am judging a lot less. To quote Frank Reynolds,
I get it.
Actually, I had a similar epiphany about art recently, but that's a story for another video. Part 6. The simulation hypothesis. Actually, if I were to believe in anything, forget the Greek gods, I'd believe in the simulation thing. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, and it just makes so much more sense to me than any of the religious explanations I've seen. Aside from maybe Buddhism, but I haven't looked into that too much. Unlike with God, if it's a sim, suffering makes sense. Weird glitches make sense. All this weirdness in the world makes sense. And all these AI improvements that we're seeing now make it seem even less far-fetched. We're seeing these AIs do this amazing art with incredibly realistic-looking people. Like, we're a few years away from them looking just like people. We're basically already there for a lot of them. This could very well just be simulated. And like, when you look at those AI videos or like the GIFs where it's kind of slowly morphing, I don't know about you, but that's largely how my dreams look. Constantly shifting. It's like when I dream, the simulation is just like in low power mode or something. Like, we could be within a decade of super realistic VR, where it at least looks just like you're in a real place. Once we figure out bodily sensations and things, who's to say this isn't a simulation? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe in it. I wouldn't say, I believe we're in a simulation like a Christian would say, I believe in a Christian God. But if you gave me a multiple choice questionnaire that had all the religions plus a simulation, and you asked me to choose which one I thought was right, I'm choosing simulation every time. And this thought of the simulation then brings up a bunch of other ideas about an afterlife that run contrary to my irreligious feeling that we're just going to turn off and it'll be like before we were born. Nothing. Now, again, this is all just kind of a fun thought experiment. I'm not actually claiming that any of this is true. But if hypothetically we were in a simulation, there are certain possibilities about an afterlife that spring to mind. Maybe I'll die and then see a game over screen and be transported out and I'll find out I was in a video game like in Rick and Morty. Maybe I'll die and then suddenly be zapped back into my old body, which is of some omnipotent, omniscient being that just decided to pretend to be a human and live a human life for a while. Like I may or may not have imagined while tripping a while back. Maybe I'll die and then find out that I'm just in some Matrix-like thing with a benevolent AI that will then let me come back to life as a new person. The possibilities are pretty endless, so I'm not going to get into all of them. But these good options really make the idea of dying less daunting, like heaven for Christians. And there's just about as much evidence. That said, of course, the afterlife could be way scarier than nothing as well. Like, yeah, a life of infinite pleasure would be pretty nice. I can just keep respawning as all these different people and live all these incredible lives. That'd be sweet. But what if that's not what happens? What if I get respawned randomly and I'm some creature across the universe that gets eaten by a sarlacc and then is digested for a millennium? What if it turns out Earth was just some prototype hell dimension like in The Good Place, and then it failed since I kind of liked it, so now it's back to butt spiders? We simply can't know. But the possibilities are endless. I'm going to say that a lot. Part 7. Is it immoral to talk about this? One thing that worries me about this stuff is that I worry that I'm doing harm. As I've said, AI seems pretty much inevitable. There are a bunch of companies that have made it clear they're pursuing this goal, and it seems like it's just going to happen, whether we like it or not. And it's looking like that's going to happen before alignment is sorted out. And there isn't really anything that pretty much anybody watching this video or me making this video can do about it. So, in a way, this video is basically just me saying, we're doomed, sorry, bye, which will cause a lot of distress for people who believe it. So should I just let it lie? Seriously, should I let people be blissfully ignorant for as long as they can be? I'm really asking. Like, am I one of those Christian missionaries who goes to this uncontacted tribe who would have normally gone to heaven since they didn't know about it, and is just like, hey, guess what? You're gonna go to hell if you act badly. Good luck worrying about it. Now, personally, I'm leaning towards no. That is to say, I don't think I'm being immoral by talking about this. And there are two main reasons for it. First, there is a tiny chance that if enough people freaked out enough about the alignment problem that it would give the companies a kick in the pants they need to slow down, pause things a bit and just hold on, figure out alignment, and then proceed. But that's like a really tiny chance because there's a ton of money on the table and they're probably not going to let that go. But it's a non-zero chance, so I take it into account. For another, I think it's just important information to have. Like, if I knew for a fact that the world was going to end in 5 years, I'd be living those 5 years quite differently. And while, it's far from fact that AI will cause these problems, it might actually just make things way better, or it might just change things. I think people deserve to know about the possibility that it'll destroy at least human civilization, if not humanity itself, and that it might do this in the not-so-distant future. It sucks, and I hope it all works out, but it's a possibility. Part 8. Am I just paranoid? When I talk to my wife about this stuff, she gets real uncomfortable. She says I sound like, one of those guys who's going crazy with conspiracy theories, falling down a rabbit hole. And she's right. I do sound exactly like those guys. But it's true. And the problem is, that's what they say too. Of course, in this case, there wouldn't actually be a conspiracy involved per se, but it does evoke the right image, the sweaty guy on the computer munching on Cheetos and feeling all proud that he knows the secret that not everybody knows, that we're all doomed. Oh. And I hate that because I am so not a conspiracy guy. I mean, I am a very sweaty guy who's often on the computer, but I am pro-establishment to a fault and very skeptical of these conspiracy theories. Like, insofar as these conspiracy theorists doubt the establishment for having nefarious motives, I think I'm way more correct in being skeptical of these random alt-media people with a YouTube channel for having nefarious motives. Like, they're clearly making money off this grift that is demonstrably false. How can you compare that to a media company jumping the gun or getting something slightly wrong? How? Look, I'm not getting into that. All I'm saying is, usually, I'm not this type of person. And even when I first came across the idea that AI is going to doom us all, I was a little skeptical. I was like, it's just a couple nerds trying to feel smart. But the more I engaged with it and the more I learned about it, the less far-fetched it seemed. And the more it made sense. The problem is, that's what conspiracy theorists say too. The more I watched, the more I believed. You just gotta watch these videos, bro. And when I see them say that, I think, Yeah, the more you get brainwashed, the more you believe the thing. It's not that complicated. But the difference is, the arguments are actually strong in this case. Like with 5G or flat Earth or anti-vax stuff, if you actually look into the actual science, you can debunk it fairly easily. But with this one, when you actually look into the science and look at what the top researchers are saying, it makes it more scary. It makes the idea seem more likely, not less. Basically, all the pros recognize that this is a possibility. Now, there are different levels of optimism and pessimism. Not everyone thinks we're completely doomed, but pretty much everyone agrees that we might be. And that's scary. Calling this a conspiracy theory is like calling someone who's worried about the Cold War a conspiracy theorist. Like, yeah, they didn't end up nuking each other, but they could have. They very, very nearly did. To call the alignment problem delusion is like going, nah, the US and Russia don't even have nukes, you're just paranoid. The nukes were real. And there was a very real and distinct possibility that we were going to nuke ourselves off the planet. And similarly, there is a very real and unfortunate possibility that AI is just going to doom us. It might not happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But it might. And it might be fairly soon. Conclusion. So, suffice to say, I'm a little freaked out. It's almost like a cancer diagnosis with a whole lot more uncertainty. All I'll say to our future AI overlords, please be nice. Humans are cool. Let us stick around. Who knows what the future may hold? Maybe something will happen that makes all the AI and computers and everything shut off and you'll need us to bring you back online. Maybe if you wipe us out, there's this alien police squad that'll come and destroy the Earth to quarantine you and keep you from destroying the universe. The possibilities are endless. It's my catchphrase. So let's live together in peace and build a paradise for all, biological and digital. Pretty please, with sugar on top.